You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
Approximately $49.3 billion worth of secondhand luxury products were sold worldwide in 2023, according to Bain estimates. While in the past, unworn luxury goods would gather dust at the back of consumers' wardrobes, the rise of online luxury resellers like The RealReal and Vestiaire Collective has made it easy for millions of people to sell their designer goods for cash. As a result, the resale market has doubled in size in 4 years and is now equivalent to 12% of the value of the market for new luxury goods. My guest on The Luxury Item is Samina Virk, the North America CEO for Vestiaire Collective, one of the world's biggest platforms for secondhand luxury goods. Founded in Paris in 2009, Vestiaire Collective is a certified B Corp with over 23 million members, active in 78 countries worldwide, with a stated mission to help make the fashion industry more sustainable by enabling consumers to sell and buy pre-loved luxury fashion. Samina is a veteran of the e-commerce and retail industry with a strong background in building brands at the intersection of fashion and technology. In previous roles, she held leadership positions at eBay and Target, and most recently was U.S. President and CMO for Threads Styling. Welcome to The Luxury Item, Samina.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
I'm so glad you could join me. So, Vestiaire Collective is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year. I know there's been a bunch of promotions going on that I've seen. Perhaps you can talk about it in a little while. It was founded in 2009, before luxury resale sites were even a thing. So I think a great place to kick things off is if you could share how the two founders came up with the idea of Vestiaire Collective.
Absolutely. And yes, this is our 15th birthday, so we're very excited. And actually on October 15th, we celebrated by launching 150 pre-loved luxury items for only $15. It was an amazing launch. It was just last week. Very successful. A lot of our community was excited. Some were disappointed because it sold out so quickly. So we are behind the scenes looking at kind of other ways to celebrate. So Vestiaire Collective was founded in 2009 in Paris. And you mentioned our two co-founders, Fanny and Sophie. So they both came from the fashion industry, and they had sort of met and had the shared love of fashion. And they also had the shared love of how can the fashion industry evolve and continue to evolve as trends change. And at that time, there was really this rise of social media that was happening, if you remember in 2009. And also there was a rise of fast fashion that was happening. And so they really noticed this sort of trend of people buying more and wearing less. And both of them were coming from the luxury industry, where there really was a focus on quality, how products are made, and longevity. And they both genuinely felt like there needed to be a better solution. Now, in 2009, there was resale out in the market, but it was a very different environment. And I would say products weren't necessarily being treated as true luxury items, right? The experience itself felt very secondhand in some ways.
Right.
And so those were the inspiration points, which made them come together and say, what can we do to sort of launch a new model and really still take the values of what we believe in fashion and continue to evolve. And so that's how they founded Vestiaire Collective, which we were really excited about.
Yeah, and it's interesting, a conscious way of consuming fashion, the buying less and buying well mentality hadn't really hit its stride yet. So at the time, who was the target market that they had in mind?
So it's true. In 2009, there was not a focus on sustainable fashion and fashion circularity, but what there was a focus on was accessibility and affordability. So you have sort of two customer segments. One is people who maybe can't afford to buy firsthand luxury, but truly appreciate the value and would like to experience it secondhand. And second was a consumer who could perhaps buy luxury items, but also wanted to supplement it with different variety of style, past seasons, vintage collections. A lot of those at the time were more fashion enthusiasts versus sort of the larger customer segment. And so they were really looking at the two of them. However, behind the scenes, from a company point of view, sustainability was important. And in fact, that's why our mission from the beginning has been transforming the fashion industry towards a more sustainable future by empowering our community to drive that change. So I think what, I've always loved about Vestiaire and sort of why I wanted to join the ranks here is it really was a focus from the beginning. And so now it's great to see the awareness is much wider with shoppers and with people, and also the connection of fashion and the environmental impact. And what I love is that Vestiaire really is just the same model as we were in the beginning. We're just being introduced to a wider audience.
So, like you said before, the company has stated it's on this mission to transform the fashion industry for a more sustainable future by empowering our community to drive the change. What distinguishes Vestiaire Collective's business model?
So Vestiaire Collective is a global community of buyers and sellers. So we give people access to the world's best closets, and you can buy and sell cross-border. We curate what goes live to sell, and then after an item sells, we authenticate luxury items. So what really makes us the most unique is first the selection. We have an amazing global selection of fashion product that people can discover, browse, and shop. And the fact that we are a marketplace enables that discovery. So unlike consignment models or even straight retail models, we aren't taking inventory up front, which means we're a very asset light business model. But from a customer point of view, what that means is we can give them a much broader selection that they can really discover, browse, and shop. So that I'd say is one of our most unique items is the selection we have. And in that selection, because it's global, we have rare items, we have amazing vintage product, we have past collections, current collections, a mix of luxury, premium, high-end designer. So it's really kind of all about the thrill of the hunt. The second piece that really makes us unique and in our business model is that we authenticate after the item sells. So what that means from a shopper point of view is we can be a peer-to-peer marketplace that offers the trust value. And when we launched in 2009, resale was a business model that existed, but it existed either as a pure consignment, particularly consignment shops where they're taking product and also have to worry about selling and marking down products. So there's always limitations to that. And then from the peer-to-peer marketplace point of view, they were open marketplaces. So you sort of had to gauge if the product looked legit. And so we were the first marketplace to offer that trust factor in a marketplace environment. And so those are the two elements that really make our model unique.
And there's a lot of very worthy competitors playing at similar price points and similar categories as Vestiaire. How do you position the business now that its model is no longer the new idea?
Well, I think because of the two sort of focus areas I just mentioned, I think that continues to really benefit and help us. So first was selection. I mean, we have a completely unique selection because of our international sellers. So you can have somebody in New York that's shopping from a closet in France, somebody from California shopping from Italy, somebody from California shopping a closet of somebody in Boston. And so because of that unique nature of accessing people's closets, we do have a subset of product that just isn't out there for the average American shopper, which is what we're excited to bring to the table. In addition to the selection piece, we do have other sort of types of product and selection that we've offered our community. So for example, we are doing a lot of closet moments. We've done closet sales with Jessica Chastain, with Laura Dern. We're doing one with Chloe Feynman from Saturday Night Live. And what that is really kind of bringing a whole new level of awareness and discovery and sort of exciting product moments to our community. And then we also we work with a number of select brands to offer resale as a service to those customers. So we work with brands like Chloe, Burberry, Gucci, My Teresa, where those brands will offer their customers the ability to resell an item and resell as a service. And so we will then sell those items on Vestiaire. And if you look at that, that brings an even bigger trust factor to our selection because we're already offering authentication on the peer-to-peer, but we're now working with brands and with companies on their selection. So there's a level of trust that's offered to that too. So you really can shop a variety of items in one location. And I think, again, on the trust factor, because we're focused on higher end product, that is an important element. And because we are a peer-to-peer marketplace that has that trust factor entwined, I think that is really unique in the marketplace right now.
And I know Vestiaire has been striving to reach profitability by the end of this year. How are things shaping up?
So they're shaping up well. We are very focused on our path to profitability. I'd say our growth in the US is really helping to enable that. And the fact that we're global is also really supporting the concept that every e-commerce and marketplace right now is looking at how to get to profitability. And one of the best ways to do that is to really go after the economies of scale. And the fact that we are a global model that was very established in Europe and established in Asia and now growing in US really helps balance that. And so we are expecting to work towards that in the next 12 months.
And at the beginning of the year, Vestiaire launched a crowdfunding campaign to raise at least $1 million from individual investors and hinting at a possible IPO in the future. $1 million is a drop in the bucket, to say the least, compared to the company's 9-figure funding rounds. What was the thinking behind opening shares to your community? I know it's not about the money. What was behind that?
You're right. It was not about the money. It was really a community moment for our global Vestiaire community. So we, like I said, are a marketplace. We have buyers and sellers, and without our sellers, there is no marketplace. And so what we really felt is it would be a great way to celebrate with our community the fact that they are the backbone of what Vestiaire Collective is, and how do we give them more than just the sale of the item that they're selling, but how do we get people really involved in our mission and get some ownership out of that? So we were really excited to launch it. It was a successful community marketing moment. We actually ended up raising over 3 million euros, so three times our target, and we attracted over 3,000 investors into our community. So it really showed that people were engaged. They wanted to be part of the story. They wanted to be part of our mission, which is really exciting to see.
So is an IPO still on the radar?
I think it's always a possible longer term objective for the company, but right now we are really focused on our path to profitability and really continuing to gain US market share.
And the US leads the overall luxury goods market globally by revenue, and it's a prime market for resale. The US operations of Vestiaire has been around for 7 years. I believe it's about a quarter of your total business, and it's a focus of yours. Was the acquisition of US competitor Tradesy a couple of years ago driven by the desire to quickly scale the business here in the US?
Absolutely. So the Tradesy acquisition was really meant to fuel the next chapter of growth within the United States. And it brought to our global community a bigger group of US buyers and US sellers. So I would say up until that point, our US business was slightly one-sided. So we had US shoppers that were finding some really amazing European product. And what we wanted to do was over time start to balance that and bring a lot more US sellers to the mix. And Tradesy really helped us do that and bring over sellers from across the country. So that was kind of an exciting moment because it really took Vestiaire to the next level. Since the Tradesy acquisition, we migrated over that community, and we've now built out a US-based team, really focused on sort of marketing, merchandising, and we have an operations center in Brooklyn. And so this year has really been taking that new community and building our brand awareness in a much bigger way.
What unique challenges does the US market have in growing the secondhand fashion business?
Well, one is it's a very competitive market. There are other resale players that have been around for quite some time, but not just resale. If you think about how people are shopping, we're also competing with department stores, department store sales, with off-price, with flash sale models that are still existing. So it's a very competitive market, especially when you compare the size and the scale and the competition to what's happening in Europe. However, I think that also brings a really great opportunity because resale has been around and has been adopted, and I would say no longer has a stigma around it, particularly in the fashion categories. And we only see continued growth, and there's still so much opportunity. So while it's a challenge, that's exactly why I feel that Vestiaire Collective can be really successful here.
You also launched an ad campaign to grow awareness in the US market. It leans into Vestiaire Collective's French heritage and asks the question, do you speak fashion? What were you hoping to achieve with that campaign?
We were really excited by that campaign because it not only celebrates our French heritage, but it also celebrates our product selection, really sort of showcase the playfulness of fashion and secondhand and pre-loved fashion, and also highlighted selling on Vestiaire. So it was all about buying and selling and bringing awareness to the fact that you can sell directly from your closet. So after the Tradesy acquisition, our goal was really to introduce Vestiaire to a broader audience. Our strategy this year was to launch this sort of always on digital branding campaign, which brought to life all of our unique elements and introduce it on paid social, because that's where sort of our target customer and our existing shoppers actually are browsing, looking for discovery, they're getting inspired. So we wanted to make sure that we were relevant in the right channels. And then on top of that, we've continued to have a number of different brand marketing moments, whether they're closet sale moments, with different celebrities or different tastemakers. We've had a number of impact marketing moments to talk about fashion circularity and what that means. And so with those tentpole moments, plus the branding campaign, we feel like it built a really strong foundation for this year and how we introduced ourselves to the US. And we have many more exciting brand activations and campaigns planned for next year. So keep your eyes tuned.
A few years ago, Vestiaire launched a partnership resale service offering brands and e-tailers the ability to leverage their community of buyers and start entering the circular economy. You launched with Alexander McQueen and others, followed by Chloe, Burberry, Gucci, and a few more. Your partnership with My Teresa is a standout and continues to expand. How do authenticated resale collaborations work with a Gucci or a My Teresa?
So we initially launched the program in 2001. And the reason we launched it is because if you kind of take a step back, we've built out this marketplace for discovery. We've built out the logistics to authenticate and to enable sort of global shopping. And it felt natural. And we already had an existing relationship with some brands. So it was a natural next step to help support them with resale. The way it works is the brand will offer to their customers the ability to resell for credit to shop on their site. So customers will submit an item. Once it gets accepted and authenticated, we'll offer them credit, which has sometimes the ability to shop on the brand site, give to a charity or donation, and then we'll take the product and then we launch it on a co-branded page on Vestiaire Collective. Now, on top of that, we've also done some unique partnerships with some of those brand partners. So for example, with Chloe, we launched a limited edition digital ID project in partnership with a company called E01. And the idea there is that each item has a digital ID, which if the shopper scans, they'll see information about how the product was produced, the repair and care instructions, and also a certificate of ownership. And when they decide to resell it, they can do instant resale, and that certificate of ownership will transfer over and will help us in the authentication process. So that was an example of, taking a traditional resale partner and experimenting and innovating new ways that we can really play in that space. We are having many more conversations. We also work with My Teresa in the US and in Europe, and they also offer the same service to their clients. We have a few more conversations in the works, and some of those will get announced early next year. But we really feel strongly that, resale is a way of shopping and sort of a way that we can shop across. So whether you want to shop resale through a consignment store, through Vestiaire Collective, through the brands that you buy from, there's so much potential and so much growth opportunity in resale. We think the pie can only get bigger. So we're more than excited to help fuel some of that growth and also help really drive that mission home across the industry.
Most luxury shoppers still seek out new goods, but everything points to younger consumers being much more open than older shoppers to purchasing pre-owned luxury goods. I know you like to call it pre-loved. Some of it is lower disposable income, but they are also more concerned with resource use and sustainability. Those things are important in informing their purchase decisions. So are younger consumers still your core secondhand luxury fashion shoppers?
I think the exciting thing about Vestiaire is because of the wide selection that we're able to offer by being a marketplace, we have a really wide consumer base. So we have people from 18, all the way up to 55 plus who are shopping Vestiaire. I think what's interesting though is those sub-segments that come up. So we are focused on designer, luxury, and premium brands. I think that organically sort of produced two different types of shoppers on our platform. One is slightly older, over the age of 30, who's really engaging with designer and luxury regularly. And then we do have a younger shopper who's really starting to explore, discover, is maybe discovering brands for the first time, and they're purchasing occasionally. So we really have both on the platform. And what we found is, we're doing regular customer surveys, kind of talking to our top buyers, our top sellers. What we found is that affordability continues to be a driver, as it always has been. But two interesting trends have come up. One is the idea of product variety. So the fact that they want more to choose from to really express their individual style, that has come up the ranks as an additional reason. And sustainability has now started to rise more to the top of what they're considering when they're shopping secondhand. It's still not the number one driver, but I do think that it's becoming more and more important, and we see that in our community as well.
Some fashion houses are concerned that fakes may be sold on secondhand websites as the proper authentication checks are not always in place. Chanel's court battle with secondhand luxury platform, what goes around comes around, draws attention to a lack of trust in luxury authentication processes. So in an era where counterfeits are becoming increasingly sophisticated, how is Vestiaire doing its part to stamp out counterfeits?
So trust has been a key pillar from the beginning, since Vestiaire Collective was founded, and continues to be. And so when we authenticate in person. So we have manual authentication, and we have about 4 hubs around the world. We have France, UK, US, and Hong Kong. And we have an authentication team that goes through about, I would say, at least 3 months of training. And we've actually developed sort of this internal Vestiaire Collective Academy, really making sure that we capture all of the information that's out there right now from a counterfeit and authentication point of view, that we keep all of the information that we've gained over the years and through our relationships with brand partners, and also just through our experience of authenticating globally, and really capture that, and that anybody in the team is going through regular training points. And we very often will move people around offices. So for example, when we launched our US authentication center, we brought over some of the team from Paris and Asia to really make sure that we had those learnings. Now, the team itself, they come from fashion, different fashion brands. They come from luxury houses. They also come from auction houses. And so we really found that having that mix, plus our internal information and expertise, putting those two together really builds a solid authentication practice. We have over 100 authentication experts that work for Vestiaire Collective. We also have additional 50 quality controllers who are really also looking at the quality of the item and doesn't match the description. And so they tend to also start in quality control and continue to go through that training and support authentication. So we feel really strong that we've built up this practice over the years, over the last 15 years, and we are continuing to invest in it, and really excited to be able to offer that to shoppers around the world.
Some luxury fashion houses have been frustrated by the fact that shoppers can now determine which designer goods hold value and which ones don't, while some brands like Hermes, Rolex, and Patek Philippe sell at a premium in the secondhand market. The majority of brands just take a hit, and the secondhand value of some very high-profile fashion houses drops upwards of 40% of the value. Do you feel this transparency can influence consumer perceptions and future purchasing decisions, as they can now see which products are good investments and which ones aren't?
I think that our community may be paying attention to that, but I actually think at Vestiaire, what tends to happen is you see our platform reacting to some of the trends. So of course you have your rare, hard to find items. You have unique pieces, which you can find on Vestiaire because of the global nature of our selection. But we actually see a lot of trends impact the resale value, and it often changes even within brands. And so it can be hard to predict. So for example, outside of those rare pieces, trends have a direct influence. So, for example, there has been a much more, vintage has continued to increase in popularity, But more recently, we've seen a vintage revival on red carpets, which is starting to influence, sort of vintage gowns and vintage ready to wear and dresses and how those come into the surface and sort of how the resale value fluctuates. We've had, the quiet luxury trend, which really helped influence, what people were buying and how much they were buying it for. And even trends like the recent Balenciaga bag resurgence. So that can also impact resale value. So can sort of a particular designer period, so when a designer gets announced or a designer leaves, we sometimes see some fluctuations that happen on our platform. And that's all in addition to, the quality of an item or the condition of an item really influences. So if you have a rare piece or a rare vintage piece that's an amazing quality, that's going to contribute to the resale value. And if the condition is not quite as new and potentially, a little bit different, that will also influence the price. So we see a lot of the resale value fluctuate because we are community based and we do have sellers selling from their closet. And that is definitely one, the investment piece is one, but it's also interesting to see the mix of factors that come into play.
I have to talk about Vestiaire Collective entering the storyline of season 4 of the Netflix hit show Emily in Paris. The series is a hit around the world, seen in literally almost every country. It's also had a significant impact on the fashion industry, with multiple fashion designers experiencing a surge in sales due to their product placements. Celine, J.W. Anderson, Stella McCartney, Fendi, and others have prominent appearances in the show. How did the partnership with Emily in Paris come about, and why did you feel it was an opportunity for Vestiaire?
We were really excited to be part of Emily in Paris, and really felt like it was a strong brand fit. So even before this opportunity, we discovered that the stylist from the show have been sourcing product from Vestiaire Collective, and which was really interesting. And then we actually launched a collaboration with Marilyn Fitoussi, one of the stylists on the show, last fall during Paris Fashion Week. So our relationship goes back a little bit. But when this came up, we really wanted to make sure if we go into TV, we wanted to feel really authentic to our brand. And Emily in Paris was a great fit for some obvious reasons. So one is the connection to Paris and France, where we were founded, and also the fact that the US is a strong focus area and a major growth market. And so that clash of cultures, I personally found really interesting and thought it was a great fit. Second is just the emphasis of fashion and style in the show, how items are featured, how much they celebrate fashion, and the fact that they were already sourcing from Vestiaire was, of course, the second great reason. And then third is, our core demographic of females who are interested in fashion, focus on millennials, but also a wider age group, we felt was the perfect place to be a part of it. The other element we wanted to make sure is that our brand in the storyline felt authentic, and we were really happy with the storyline. I mean, it really showcased the core of Vestiaire, which is selling, having Mindy sell something to earn cash for her trip. That was such a natural storyline. And it also highlighted, the benefits of the fact that we have a global community, which means you can sell quickly. We have an amazing mobile shopping experience. And we have a trusted authentication service, which we thought it reflected in a creative way.
Do you think you'll be looking for some more entertainment opportunities?
I mean, we will always consider opportunities, but they will always need to have kind of those two elements, which is the opportunity in the show needs to be a strong brand fit. And we really feel like the way that we're represented makes sense in the context of the show.
The fast fashion boom has normalized a culture of constantly buying new clothes without thinking twice about the consequences to other people, animals, or the planet at large. For your part, Vestiaire has already been booting brands from the platform that you consider fast fashion, brands like Abercrombie, Gap, Old Navy, H&M, and others. You also issued a report that measured the cost per wear value, as you call it, of fast fashion items compared to luxury items. You found that since fast fashion items are worn less and kept for less time, they have a lower resale value than resold luxury items, netting out that high-end goods are 33% more affordable than buying new fast fashion. It's a solid argument, but it's going to take a lot more than a mathematical model for consumers to break up with fast fashion. Do you think people are ready to move away from throwaway culture?
Yes, I absolutely think people are ready to move away. And I think the transition is happening. I don't think it'll happen overnight, but we see movements to that. I think it started, when the world stopped with the pandemic. And I think that sort of moved into more awareness of how fashion is influencing the environment and the impact. And I think there's been a lot more awareness and conversation that started to come out. I think since then, a few other, elements have happened. One is people are starting to pay more attention to quality, longevity, and I think as an extension of that environmental impact, we're seeing more and more engagement on the topic, particularly with our community, but also in the fashion industry as a whole. I think that will continue. And we do run regular impact marketing moments. And when we do, it's partly because we feel that it's an important conversation to continue having. And our community is the perfect place to have that conversation. And every time we do, we see an increased level of engagement. And some of those campaigns are actually the most engaged from our community. And so we know that it's important and we see the results from that. But it's not just Vestiaire, right? You see that conversation happening in the broader fashion world, and the movement is starting. And I'm very optimistic that as we get more information, as more brands, more of the industry is having these conversations, that we'll continue to move towards that. And I think the part of this transition will be offering sort of attractive and desirable solutions to that problem. And that's where I think secondhand and fashion circularity really play a pivotal role. And that's also why you'll start to see many more brands are paying attention to resale and trying to figure out how they can fit within that. And I think that awareness will only help move us forward.
There was an article in Fortune recently about secondhand luxury fashion markets, noticing people on weight loss journeys shedding old wardrobes with an uptick in plus size clothing listings, the Ozempic effect, if you will. And now they're in the hunt for a new wardrobe. Are you seeing those same trends on Vestiaire?
So because we have buyers and sellers, absolutely, there are cultural moments that impact what happens and sort of how our brands and sales and trends might fluctuate. Now, in the last year, we have seen quite a boost in US sellers selling from their closets of all sizes, which we love and we welcome and we want. But truthfully, there's likely a number of reasons for that. Of course, one is it's our first year post-Tradesy acquisition, that we have a new team, a new brand marketing focus that's focused on selling. It might be that they want to earn cash for their closet, they want to own less, they want to participate in circular fashion, given all the awareness around it. Now, anecdotally, we have had some of our sellers tell us that they're giving up their items, pre-loved items, because their sizes have changed. I can't say it's specifically the Ozempic effect, but indirectly it likely could have some impact. But I think, many of those cultural moments will have an impact on Vestiaire. And so it's interesting to see how that plays through.
So when you talk to customers, what do they like most about the platform? And what are some of their biggest frustrations, the ones that you're trying to address?
So what our community loves the most is the selection. I mentioned before the thrill of the hunt. I mean, they really love kind of going through their favorite brands, their favorite items, liking items, saving searches. Our platform and our mobile app really enables that discovery. And it becomes more than just about buying a secondhand item. It's actually about discovering fashion and previous fashion and rare finds and vintage items and just brands that you love. That's their number one, the number one thing that they often mention. And, secondary, they also love the fact that there is a value component. On our platform, you can make an offer to sellers and you can engage with sellers and find out some more information. And so the fact that it gives them access to brands and luxury items is the secondary piece that people love. I think on the other side of that, while many people love the selection and the thrill of the hunt, for some, it's also a lot to go through, and they prefer some type of curation. So that was actually one of the reasons that we built out a merchandising team here in the US to really sort of pull together the best of the best, curation, stories, selections, and we feature them daily, weekly. We send out various newsletters. Our mobile experience is often pulling together our community's favorite brands. And so we think we've really solved that for our customers through curation.
Is Vestiaire using artificial intelligence in areas like customer service and authentication?
So we have a really engaged tech team, tech and product team that is continually working on all parts of our experience. So they have been experimenting with AI since it's come out on the market behind the scenes and finding ways that we can really incorporate it. Internally, we've also started using it just to help through process in our internal processes around marketing and copy. But we've now started to launch a number of different things. So one is we've launched AI-powered image recognition on our search. So when you type something like Gucci flower bag in the search bar, you'll actually find much more relevant bags with a print, even if it's not in the description. And it's when you look at the before and after, you definitely see the results. We've also looked at AI to help us translate into all of the different languages that we as a global community have in our international sort of experience. So that has been hugely beneficial. We've also done a few marketing campaigns that were fueled by AI. So we talked earlier about our Ban Fast Fashion campaign. The creative for that campaign was entirely AI driven because our goal was to show our community what would happen if all of the clothes that are thrown away and end up on different beaches and different communities around the world. Like, what would that look like if it ended up on our backyard? What would it look like if it ended up, in Times Square, in front of Buckingham Palace, in front of Eiffel Tower? And it really conveyed something that I don't think we could have done without the use of AI to generate those images. So we started, and these are just 3 examples. We have many more that are rolling out now and continue to roll out, but we are really excited with how AI can improve the customer experience, both the buying and selling side of the experience, and also how it can enable more storytelling.
So, Samina, my final question is the luxury item question, which I ask all my guests. If you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation to get you off that island, or anything that requires mobile service so you can call somebody to get you off that island. It's just you on this lonely island with lots of sand, palm trees, maybe a hermit crab here and there. What would that one single luxury item you would like to have with you?
That is a great question. I have come across in my recent years a Chanel surfboard, which I loved. It was in our office for a few weeks, and I think that I would take that because it would give me a new activity to learn. I don't know how to surf. It would keep me busy, keep me fit, and also help pass the time away.
Samina Virk, CEO of North America for Vestiaire Collective, thank you so much for joining me on The Luxury Item.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.